It was a bright Saturday afternoon, the kind of day that made the whole town feel alive. The sun was warm, birds were singing, and a gentle breeze swayed the branches of the trees lining the streets. Kids were running around, playing in yards, and the smell of fresh grass mixed with the faint aroma of someone grilling in a nearby backyard. In the middle of all this, Malik, a 12-year-old boy, was riding his small blue bicycle down the quiet street near his home. He loved these moments, just him, his bike, and the freedom of the open road. As he pedaled, he hummed a tune to himself, feeling the wind brush past his face. Malik had been riding for about 10 minutes when the calm was suddenly broken by the loud roar of a motorcycle approaching from behind. The engine's growl was sharp and startling, making Malik instinctively slow down. A large biker came into view, wearing a heavy leather jacket covered in patches and chains. His helmet gleamed under the sun, and the black sunglasses added to the intimidating look. He pulled up alongside Malik and slowed his bike, keeping pace with the boy. Malik felt his heart pound a little faster. Something about the man seemed off, and the sudden attention made him uneasy. The biker leaned slightly toward Malik and let out a low, mocking laugh. "Hey, kid," he said in a gruff voice. "What are you doing out here on this little toy? Don't you have somewhere else to be?" Malik hesitated, unsure of what to say. His mind raced, thinking of polite responses while trying not to show fear. I'm just riding home from the park," he said softly. His voice was quiet, but he tried to sound confident. The biker scoffed and leaned even closer, making Malik instinctively step a little to the side on his pedals. "Home from the park?" The man repeated, laughing again. "This is a real road, kid. You think you belong here on that tiny bike?" Malik felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. A few neighbors had noticed the confrontation, some peeking through windows, others standing on their porches, curious but hesitant to get involved. Malik felt trapped. He wanted to ride away, but the biker was blocking the street, forcing him to stop. The biker didn't stop there. He started mocking Malik's clothes, pointing at his worn-out sneakers and faded t-shirt. "Look at those shoes. Do you even know what a real pair looks like?" he said, his tone full of ridicule. "And that shirt. Man, you could have borrowed it from a little kid in the store." Malik's stomach churned. He tried to ignore the insults, reminding himself that the man's words didn't define him. But it was hard. The mocking, the laughter, the way the biker's shadow loomed over him. It all felt heavy and humiliating. Malik took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. I'm just riding," he said again, this time with a little more firmness. He didn't want to start a fight, but he didn't want to let the man see how scared he was. The biker's face twisted into a smirk, clearly enjoying the effect he was having. "Riding? Riding isn't enough. You gotta have style, attitude, something real," he said. "You're just pathetic, man." The words stung, and Malik's hands gripped the handlebars tighter. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might leap out of his chest. As the tension grew, Malik noticed the biker shifting on his seat, revving the engine slightly as if trying to intimidate him further. The sound was loud and jarring, echoing through the quiet neighborhood. Malik flinched but kept pedaling slowly, trying to maintain some distance. The biker's behavior was aggressive but unpredictable, and Malik didn't know what to expect next. He just wanted it to end without things getting worse. Meanwhile, Malik's mind raced with questions. Why was this man singling him out? Was it something he had done, or was the man just looking for someone to pick on? Malik had faced teasing at school before, but this was different. This was a stranger, bigger and stronger, using fear to assert control. He wished someone would step in, someone who could make the man stop without escalating things. But for now it was just him and the biker. And every second felt longer than the last. Malik's eyes darted to the side streets, looking for a chance to escape. But the biker had positioned himself strategically. It was as if he knew exactly how to corner Malik, keeping him trapped on the main road. The boy felt a mix of fear and frustration. He didn't understand why someone would treat another person this way, especially a child. Malik had always believed that people could be kind if given the chance, but this encounter made him question that belief. The biker leaned even closer, his voice dropping to a low, mocking growl. "You think you're tough riding around like this? You're nothing. Just a little kid on a weak little bike," he said. Malik swallowed hard, trying not to respond in anger or fear. He reminded himself that reacting could make things worse. He focused on keeping his hands steady on the handlebars and his eyes forward. Just then, a few neighbors started to pay more attention. One woman came out of her house pretending to water her plants but watching closely. A man on a nearby porch leaned forward, arms crossed, observing silently. The biker didn't seem to notice, caught up in his own display of dominance. The attention made Malik even more self-conscious, but it also gave him a tiny sense of hope. Maybe someone would intervene if things escalated too far. Malik's mind drifted back to simpler times, riding his bike freely through the park without fear, laughing with his friends, feeling the wind on his face. He wanted that feeling back, wanted this moment to be over. He pedaled a little faster, trying to create distance, but the biker matched his speed effortlessly. The man seemed to enjoy this game of control, testing Malik's patience and courage. For Malik, it wasn't just about the words or the mocking. It was about the feeling of being powerless, of having someone use their size and aggression to dominate him. He had faced challenges before, but this was new, a confrontation with an adult who seemed determined to shame him in front of everyone. Malik clenched his teeth and tried to focus on breathing evenly, telling himself he could handle this. As the minutes passed, Malik realized he had two options: try to ride away and risk provoking the biker further, or stay calm and wait for the situation to change. He chose the latter, knowing that losing his cool could make things worse. He stayed on his bike, pedaling slowly but steadily, trying to keep his composure. The biker continued to mock him, but Malik reminded himself that the man's words didn't define who he was. In that moment, Malik felt a mix of fear, frustration, and determination. He didn't want to let the biker see him as weak, even though he was scared. He wanted to stay in control of his own reactions, to show that he wouldn't let someone else's aggression take over his day. Malik kept pedaling, keeping his eyes forward, waiting for the confrontation to end. Little did Malik know, someone was following the biker closely, unnoticed. A man on a motorcycle, watching the situation unfold with careful attention, had noticed the biker's aggressive behavior. This man was not just any passerby. He was someone who could change the course of events without using anger or force. Malik didn't know it yet, but help was nearby, ready to step in if things got worse. As Malik continued down the street, trying to keep calm and make sense of the situation, he couldn't help but hope that the biker would eventually get bored or ride away. The tension hung in the air like a thick cloud, but Malik stayed focused, reminding himself that he had survived challenges before and could survive this too. The biker finally paused, revving his engine one more time and smirking, thinking he had scared Malik enough. Malik felt a brief flicker of hope, but he didn't let himself relax completely. He kept pedaling slowly, ready for whatever the biker might do next. Every second felt long and every movement was measured. Malik's mind was alert, his senses heightened and his heart still raced, but he kept going. By now, Malik was beginning to realize that courage wasn't about fighting back physically. It was about staying calm, thinking clearly and not letting someone else's anger control his emotions. He held on to this thought as he pedaled, waiting for the situation to change. And somewhere behind the biker, unnoticed, the man following was preparing for the moment when things would finally shift, when Malik would no longer be alone in facing this challenge. As Malik pedaled down the quiet street, trying to stay calm and steady, he felt a mixture of fear and hope. The biker was still behind him, laughing and making rude comments, clearly enjoying the power he had over the boy. Malik's legs burned a little from pedaling, but he kept going, telling himself he could handle this. He wished someone would appear, someone strong enough to stop the biker but calm enough not to make things worse. What he didn't know was that someone was already there, quietly following the biker, watching every move. That someone was a man on a motorcycle, keeping a safe distance behind the biker so as not to draw attention. This man was John Cena, who happened to be in the area for a local charity event. He had been enjoying a ride through town, looking at the familiar streets and waving to people he passed. But when he saw the biker harassing the boy, his protective instincts kicked in. He wasn't going to let a child be bullied like this, not on his watch. Cena rode calmly, matching the biker's pace but keeping far enough behind so the man didn't notice him yet. He observed the situation carefully. The biker was leaning forward, yelling, trying to make the boy feel small. Malik's body language showed nervousness and hesitation, and Cena noticed the subtle signs of fear, the slight tremble in his hands, the quick glances over his shoulder. the tense way he gripped the handlebars. Cena knew he had to act wisely. A direct confrontation could escalate the situation, so he planned to wait for the right moment. Meanwhile, Malik felt like the tension in the air was growing heavier with every second. His heart raced and his mind tried to focus on something other than the biker's words, but it was hard. The mocking comments stung, and the man's presence felt like a wall trapping him in place. Malik pedaled carefully, avoiding sudden movements, trying not to provoke the biker while also wishing he could disappear. Every step forward was measured, every glance cautious. He felt like the whole world was watching, even though only a few neighbors had stopped to look. The biker, still unaware of Cena behind him, continued his verbal assault. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Or are you just scared?" he shouted. His tone was mocking, trying to force a reaction from Malik. Malik shook his head slightly, refusing to respond with anger. He didn't want a fight, didn't want trouble, he just wanted the man to go away. But the biker was relentless, leaning closer and pointing at Malik's bike as if it were a crime. "Look at that thing. You call that a bike? You need a real one to ride on this road." Malik's stomach churned. He could feel tears pricking at the corners of his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. He remembered his father's advice. Stay calm, think clearly, and never let fear control your actions. That thought gave him a little strength. Enough to keep pedaling. Enough to keep facing the situation without breaking down completely. He felt small, yes, but he refused to let the man see him as weak. Cena continued to follow closely, analyzing the biker's behavior. He noticed the man was trying to assert dominance through intimidation, using sighs and loud words to scare Malik. Cena knew that confronting the biker aggressively could make things worse for the boy. So he stayed calm, careful to position himself as an observer for the moment, preparing to step in only when necessary. Cena's experience with public situations taught him that presence alone could shift the balance without a fight. As Malik pedaled, he tried to look around for escape routes. He glanced at side streets and driveways, hoping to find a place where he could safely turn and ride away. But the biker seemed aware of his movements, blocking the best escape routes with the motorcycle. Malik felt trapped, a mixture of fear and frustration bubbling inside him. Why was this man so cruel? Why pick on someone smaller and younger? He couldn't understand the reason, and the uncertainty made the situation feel even scarier. The biker revved his engine again, the loud sound echoing down the street. Malik flinched but kept pedaling. The vibrations shook through his hands, and for a moment, he wondered if he would lose control of the bike. The biker laughed, clearly enjoying the effect he had. Malik's mind raced with strategies. Should he speed up? Should he confront the man verbally? No, he told himself. Stay calm. Keep moving. Don't let fear control you. That was his mantra in that moment. Meanwhile, Cena continued to follow silently, noticing the small details that could make a difference. He saw the tension in Malik's shoulders, the careful way he avoided eye contact with the biker, the way he held his breath each time the man got closer. Cena knew the boy needed reassurance, even if he didn't realize it yet. Sometimes just knowing someone was watching and ready to help could make all the difference. Malik felt a tiny flicker of hope, though he didn't understand why. He didn't see Cena yet, but something about the moment made him feel less alone. Maybe it was the thought that the world wasn't entirely against him, that not everyone wanted to see him hurt or embarrassed. Malik focused on that feeling, using it as fuel to keep going, to keep his balance on the bike, to maintain his composure despite the fear. The biker, growing impatient with Malik's silence, leaned even closer, his tone dropping into a low, threatening growl. "You think you can just ride away? You can't hide from me, kid," he said. Malik's hands gripped the handlebars tighter. He could feel sweat forming on his forehead and his chest ached from nervous tension. He wanted to respond, to explain that he hadn't done anything wrong, but he knew it wouldn't help. Staying calm was the only option. The quiet presence behind the biker began to play a subtle role. Cena positioned his motorcycle slightly to the side, still behind the man but now closer to intervene if needed. His posture was relaxed but his eyes were alert, watching every movement. Cena knew that the biker had no idea someone was there, and that element of surprise could prevent things from escalating. Sometimes a calm, confident presence was more powerful than aggression. Malik's mind continued to race. He thought about how unfair it was that a stranger could make him feel so powerless. He thought about all the times he had faced teasing at school and how this was worse, because it was public and unpredictable. But he also felt a sense of determination growing inside him. He didn't want to let the biker control his emotions. He didn't want to let fear define his day. He kept pedaling, one careful push at a time, holding on to that inner strength. The biker, growing frustrated, tried to assert more control. He leaned his bike closer to Malik, revved the engine, and shouted insults. But Cena stayed calm, keeping a careful distance, making sure not to provoke the man. He knew that if he acted too soon, it could make Malik more vulnerable. Patience was key. Cena's experience taught him that often the most effective way to protect someone was to stay composed, to wait for the right moment to step in. Malik noticed the biker's focus was entirely on him. The man didn't notice the slight movement of Cena's motorcycle behind him. Malik felt a mix of relief and hope without even knowing why. Somehow the presence of someone nearby, someone strong and calm, gave him courage. He pedaled a little faster, trying to put distance between himself and the biker, knowing he wasn't entirely alone this time. The biker's voice grew louder, his mocking more intense, but the dynamic was starting to shift, even if the man didn't realize it. The quiet watchfulness of Cena added a tension the biker couldn't see. It was invisible, subtle, but powerful. Malik, unaware of the exact reason, felt a strange reassurance. He didn't feel completely helpless anymore. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with a growing sense of security. As the street continued, Malik's focus remained on keeping control of his bike. His mind thought about what had led to this moment, how an ordinary day had turned into a challenge. He reflected on his own courage, the lessons from his parents and teachers about staying calm in difficult situations. Every pedal forward was a small victory, every breath a step toward regaining confidence. Meanwhile, Cena maintained his careful observation, ready to act if necessary. He watched the biker's movements, noting the aggression, the unpredictability, and the subtle shifts in body language. Cena was prepared to intervene at the right moment, to guide Malik to safety without letting the situation escalate. His calm, quiet presence was like a shield, invisible to the biker but crucial for the boy. Malik continued pedaling, thinking about how unfair life could be sometimes, how a stranger's cruelty could appear out of nowhere. But he also felt a spark of hope, a belief that someone might help, that courage could take many forms. He didn't yet know the full story, didn't know who was behind the biker, but he felt a subtle change in the air. The tension was still there, but now it was balanced by the quiet possibility of rescue. The biker, still focused entirely on Malik, didn't notice the subtle shift in dynamics. He assumed the boy was scared, and that his intimidation was working. But little did he know, the game was about to change, and the small boy on the blue bicycle was no longer entirely alone. Malik pedaled as fast as he could, trying to stay calm despite the fear knotting his stomach. The biker's loud engine roared behind him, and every time he looked back he saw the man smirking, leaning closer, clearly enjoying the tension he had created. Malik's hands gripped the handlebars tightly, knuckles white, but he refused to let his fear show. Deep down he knew that losing his cool could make things worse. He focused on the small patches of road ahead, counting the cracks, hoping for a safe moment to turn or escape. Unseen by Malik or the biker, the man following them, John Cena, watched carefully, studying the biker's every move. Cena knew that this wasn't just a simple argument or misunderstanding. The biker was intentionally trying to intimidate a child using fear as power. Cena stayed a few meters behind, keeping his motorcycle slightly to the side so the biker couldn't notice him yet. He wasn't rushing in. Experience had taught him that sudden aggression could escalate things. Instead, he planned to intervene at the perfect moment, ensuring Malik's safety without causing a fight. The biker, still focused entirely on Malik, leaned even closer and lowered his voice into a threatening growl. "You think you can just ride away? You can't hide from me, kid. You don't belong on this road." Malik swallowed hard, his chest tightening with fear. He could feel the sweat trickling down his temple. He wanted to say something, anything, but he knew that arguing would only make the situation worse. So he kept pedaling slowly, keeping his focus on moving forward and maintaining control of his bike. The tension in the air was thick. A few neighbors who had been quietly observing from their porches and windows shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene or stay out of it. Some whispered to each other, shaking their heads at the unfairness of what was happening. Malik could feel their eyes on him, adding to the pressure, but he tried to block it out. He reminded himself that he had survived other challenges before and could handle this too. Cena had been watching silently, noting the biker's patterns. He saw how the man leaned closer when he sensed fear, how he revved the engine to intimidate, and how he tried to corner Malik without thinking about the boy's safety. Cena adjusted his position slightly, bringing his bike closer, just far enough to remain unnoticed but ready to step in if needed. He could see the subtle signs of distress on Malik's face, the trembling hands, the tight grip on the handlebars, the way his shoulders hunched protectively. Cena knew he had to act soon, before the situation escalated further. Malik, unaware of the presence behind him, felt completely trapped. Every instinct in his body screamed to escape, but the biker's positioning made it nearly impossible. He thought about turning down a side street, but the biker blocked the way. He tried to speed up, but the man's larger motorcycle easily matched his pace. The boy felt small, powerless, and overwhelmed. His heart raced, and for a brief moment he considered giving in to fear and stopping. But something inside him urged him to keep going, to stay calm and to hold on to his courage. The biker leaned even further, almost daring Malik to react. "You better say something, kid. Are you just going to ride there like a coward?" he shouted. Malik's stomach twisted. The words hurt, but he reminded himself that reacting out of anger or fear would only give the man what he wanted. He took a deep breath, keeping his voice steady. "I'm just riding. I haven't done anything wrong," he said softly. His voice was small, but it carried the weight of someone refusing to be broken. Cena watched closely, recognizing that Malik's calm response was keeping the situation from turning violent. He decided it was time to make his presence known, but he would do it carefully. He slowly maneuvered his motorcycle to the front of the biker, positioning himself as a calm, commanding presence. Cena dismounted, walking toward the biker with steady, confident steps. His calm energy was intentional. It would make the biker pause without the need for aggression. The biker finally noticed Cena. His eyes narrowed, and a hint of arrogance showed on his face. "Who's this? Another kid here to tell me what to do?" he said, smirking, assuming Cena was just a bystander. Cena didn't respond with anger. He simply stood firmly, looking the biker in the eyes, his posture confident and calm. "That boy hasn't done anything wrong," Cena said in a steady voice. "This kind of behavior isn't acceptable. You need to step back and leave him alone." The biker laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, but Cena's calm tone and confident stance created a strange tension. The man realized that Cena wasn't there to argue or provoke him. He was there to protect Malik and ensure the situation didn't escalate. It was different from anything the biker had expected. He glanced at Malik, who was still on his bike, trembling slightly but watching carefully. The boy's fear mixed with awe, noticing that someone was finally standing up for him. Cena continued, his voice firm but non-threatening. "You have a choice here. You can keep acting this way and embarrass yourself in front of everyone, or you can step back, leave the boy alone, and walk away. It's your decision." The biker, feeling the shift in the dynamic, paused. He looked around, noticing neighbors quietly observing the scene, some holding their phones ready to capture what was happening. For the first time, the man realized that his actions were being judged not just by Malik, but by the community. Malik felt a mix of relief and amazement. Someone was finally taking control of the situation without yelling or using force. Cena's calm, confident presence gave him a sense of security he hadn't felt since the confrontation began. He took a deep breath, trying to relax his tense shoulders, and pedaled slightly forward, putting a little more distance between himself and the biker. The biker, now aware that he was outnumbered in influence if not physically, tried to regain control with sarcasm. "What, are you his bodyguard now? Think you can scare me off?" he sneered. Cena didn't flinch. He maintained eye contact, his posture steady, and spoke with measured words. "I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to make sure this boy stays safe. And if you continue, people will see exactly what kind of person you are." The weight of Cena's words, combined with the attention from neighbors, began to have an effect. The biker hesitated, realizing that continuing his behavior would no longer make him feel powerful. Instead, it would make him look foolish in front of the crowd. He glanced at Malik again, noticing the boy's wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. For the first time, he felt a twinge of shame, realizing that he had gone too far. Cena took a small step closer, maintaining a calm, non-threatening stance. "There's no reason for anyone to be scared here," he said. "You don't have to prove anything by intimidating someone smaller or weaker. Walking away now shows real strength. Staying here shows weakness." The biker's smirk faltered. He looked around, noticing the people quietly watching him, some shaking their heads. He could feel the judgment in the air, and it was heavier than any confrontation he had attempted. Malik's heart began to calm slightly. He felt safer, knowing that Cena was there to protect him without using violence. He realized that courage didn't always mean fighting back physically. It could mean standing tall, asking for help, and accepting protection when needed. For the first time since the encounter began, he felt a glimmer of hope that the situation could end without harm. The biker finally took a deep breath, as if trying to regain some control over his embarrassment. He muttered something under his breath, clearly unsure how to respond. Cena didn't rush him. He stayed calm, keeping his presence steady, letting the biker process the situation. Slowly, the tension in the air began to shift. The dynamic that had been terrifying for Malik was now under control, and the biker could no longer intimidate with ease. Cena gave a final, firm but calm look to the biker. "Step back, leave the boy alone, and walk away. That's the only way this ends well for you." The biker's face twisted in frustration, but he finally nodded slightly, taking a step back from Malik. He revved his engine once and then, without another word, rode away, leaving the street quieter than it had been for hours. Malik felt an incredible sense of relief. His heart was still pounding, but the fear that had dominated him for the past several minutes was fading. He stopped pedaling for a moment, taking a deep breath, and looked at Cena, who nodded reassuringly. "You're okay now," Cena said calmly. "Just keep going home, stay safe, and remember that courage comes in many forms." Malik's eyes widened, filled with gratitude and awe. He realized he had learned something important. Bravery wasn't about fighting physically, but about staying calm, thinking clearly, and accepting help when needed. As Malik pedaled slowly toward home, Cena stayed behind him for a few moments, making sure the path was clear. The street returned to its peaceful state, birds chirping again, the breeze swaying the trees, but Malik's perspective had changed forever. He had faced fear, humiliation, and intimidation, and he had survived with courage, calmness, and help from an unexpected hero. Malik pedaled slowly down the street, his legs still trembling slightly from the fear and tension he had just experienced. The biker had disappeared around the corner, leaving behind a quiet street and a sense of relief that felt almost surreal. His chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath, and his hands, which had been gripping the handlebars so tightly they hurt, began to relax. The world felt calm again, yet Malik knew that his heart would still be racing for a little while. He felt a mix of exhaustion, relief, and a strange sense of pride for having made it through the encounter. John Cena stayed a few meters behind, watching quietly to make sure Malik was truly safe. He didn't speak immediately, letting the boy regain his composure. Cena had seen the fear and courage in Malik's eyes during the confrontation, and he knew that this was a moment that would stay with the boy forever. He wanted Malik to feel supported without taking away the lesson that sometimes courage is quiet and subtle, not loud or aggressive. Malik finally slowed his pedaling to a stop, resting his foot on the ground and taking a deep breath. "Thank you," he said softly, almost a whisper. His voice was shaky, but it carried the weight of genuine gratitude. Cena smiled warmly. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You stayed calm, you didn't give in to fear, and you kept yourself safe. That's what really matters." Malik nodded, trying to process the events of the last several minutes. The lesson was sinking in slowly, and he felt a growing sense of understanding about bravery and resilience. As they continued walking their bikes slowly down the street, Malik started noticing the neighbors who had watched the incident. A few had come outside, speaking quietly to each other, pointing toward the biker as he had driven away. Their whispers weren't loud enough to be mean or judgmental, but they carried a tone of disbelief and disapproval. Malik realized that the biker's actions had been seen, and in a way he felt a sense of justice. Even though the man had tried to humiliate him, the attention of the neighborhood had shifted. The shame was now on the biker, not on him. Cena spoke again, his voice calm and encouraging. "It's important to understand that not everyone will behave the way you want them to. Some people try to intimidate or belittle others because it makes them feel stronger, but staying calm, not reacting in anger, and focusing on your own actions is the real sign of strength." Malik nodded slowly, taking in the words. He had always admired people who could stay composed under pressure, and now he understood that this wasn't just about physical courage, it was about emotional courage too. Malik glanced down at his bike. The blue paint scratched slightly from the nervous grip he had on the handlebars. He realized that even though the bike was small and simple, it had been his way of maintaining control during the situation. Every push of the pedals, every careful maneuver had been an act of quiet courage. Malik felt a growing pride in himself, mixed with relief that he had made it through the encounter without injury or worse. Cena watched Malik carefully, noticing the subtle changes in the boy's posture. The tension was slowly leaving his shoulders, and the fear in his eyes was giving way to a sense of accomplishment. Cena knew that this moment would be important for Malik, not just as a memory of being protected, but as a lesson in how to face difficult situations in the future. You'll remember this day for a long time, Cena said. Not because it was scary, but because you handled it the right way. Malik nodded, a small smile forming on his face. As they walked, the neighborhood started to feel different. What had been an ordinary street now carried a sense of community awareness. People had witnessed the confrontation, and even without saying it directly, they had shown support through their presence. Malik realized that courage wasn't always about facing someone alone. It could also be about knowing that help might come, even from unexpected places. The memory of Cena standing calmly, ready to intervene, made him feel safer than he had in weeks. Malik thought about the biker, who had driven away in frustration. He felt a complex mix of emotions, anger, disbelief, and a small sense of triumph. The man had tried to intimidate him and had failed. That failure wasn't just Malik's, it was now public. He realized that sometimes the actions of others don't define him. How he responds does. That understanding made him feel stronger than he had before. Cena spoke again, breaking the comfortable silence. You did everything right. Staying calm, not reacting to provocation, and letting someone intervene when necessary, that's how you handle dangerous situations safely. Malik listened closely, realizing that this advice wasn't just for this moment, but for life. He could face challenges in school, in friendships, or anywhere else, using the same principles he had learned today: calmness, composure, and courage. The boy glanced back down the street where the biker had disappeared. The roar of the motorcycle was gone, replaced by the peaceful hum of the neighborhood. He felt a strange sense of relief and gratitude, knowing that he had survived something truly frightening. At the same time, he felt a spark of confidence. He had stood his ground, maintained composure, and made it through. That realization gave him a feeling of quiet pride that he would carry with him forever. Cena stayed near Malik as they approached the corner where the boy's house was visible. The street was quiet, peaceful, and familiar again. Malik's mind wandered through the events of the afternoon, replaying the fear, the tension, and the relief. Each moment taught him something about courage and resilience. He thought about how he had been scared but still able to think clearly and make careful decisions. That lesson felt more important than anything else he had learned that day. The neighbors continued to whisper quietly, and a few gave Malik nods of approval. He realized that their attention, combined with Cena's calm presence, had shifted the power dynamic completely. The biker, who had tried to dominate through fear, had been outmaneuvered without anyone having to fight or yell. It was a lesson in dignity, courage, and the power of calm authority. Malik understood that courage didn't always have to be loud or aggressive. It could be quiet, measured, and effective. As they reached the driveway of Malik's home, Cena smiled warmly at the boy. "You're safe now," he said. "Remember what you did today. It wasn't just about escaping fear. It was about handling it, staying calm, and letting the situation resolve without making it worse. That's real courage." Malik felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had faced fear, humiliation, and intimidation, and he had survived, not just because someone helped him, but because he had acted with composure and awareness. Malik dismounted his bike, feeling the soreness in his legs but also a quiet sense of accomplishment. He looked up at Cena, whose calm and friendly presence had made all the difference. "Thank you for helping me," Malik said again, this time with more confidence in his voice. Cena nodded, giving him an encouraging smile. "You helped yourself too," he said. "You stayed calm, made smart choices, and showed courage in a scary situation. That's something you can always be proud of." Malik walked the last few steps to his front door, still carrying the sense of relief and pride. He realized that the events of the day had taught him something important about life. Fear will always appear, but how you respond to it defines who you are. He had felt fear, but he had acted wisely and with courage, and now he was stronger for it. Cena watched for a moment as Malik entered his home safely. The street had returned to its peaceful normalcy, the sun shining, the birds singing, and the wind brushing gently through the trees. But the experience of the afternoon had left an imprint, not just on Malik but on the neighborhood. People had witnessed courage, calm authority, and the importance of standing up for what is right without aggression. It was a lesson that would linger in the minds of those who had observed it. Malik, now safely inside, reflected on the events once more. He thought about how fear can make someone feel small and powerless, but courage isn't always about fighting. Sometimes it's about staying calm, thinking clearly, and letting the right help arrive at the right moment. He understood that day that courage and composure could change the outcome of even the most intimidating situations. Cena rode away quietly, leaving Malik with a final wave. He knew the boy had learned a lesson he would never forget, a lesson about courage, resilience, and the quiet power of remaining calm under pressure. Malik felt a sense of hope and strength, knowing that even in moments of fear and humiliation, there is always a way to handle things wisely and safely. Malik's heart still pounded a little, but it was now mixed with pride. He had faced a frightening situation, stood his ground, and survived. He knew that he could face challenges in the future with the same calm courage, and that knowledge gave him a quiet but powerful confidence. The street was peaceful again, but Malik's perspective had changed forever. He had learned what real courage looked like, and he knew he would carry that lesson with him for the rest of his life. The next morning, Malik woke up with a strange mixture of relief and pride. The events of the previous day played over and over in his mind, but this time he didn't feel fear. He felt a quiet confidence. He remembered how he had stayed calm while the bikers shouted and mocked him, how he had pedaled carefully to keep control of his bike, and how John Cena had intervened in the calmest way possible. All of it felt like a story he would never forget. A story that had changed him in ways he hadn't fully realized yet. Malik got ready for the day, his movements slower than usual because his muscles were still sore from the previous afternoon. Every pedal stroke from that intense encounter seemed to have left a small ache in his legs, but it didn't matter. The soreness reminded him that he had faced something big and had survived. As he ate breakfast, his parents noticed a difference in his expression. He seemed calmer, yet more aware of himself. His mother, always perceptive, asked softly, "Did something happen yesterday?" Malik hesitated but then decided to tell them. He recounted the story slowly, carefully explaining how the biker had intimidated him, how he had felt scared but tried to stay calm, and how finally someone had appeared to help. He described John Cena stepping in, standing calmly between him and the biker, and how the presence of that calm authority had changed everything. His parents listened intently, their eyes wide with concern at first, but gradually shifting to pride. Malik had survived something frightening, and he had done it with courage and composure. As he finished recounting the story, Malik realized that the lesson wasn't just about fear, it was about understanding courage. Courage didn't have to be loud or aggressive. Courage could be quiet, steady, and smart. He had felt fear, yes, but he had not allowed it to control his actions, and that, he understood now, was real bravery. Later that day, Malik decided to ride his bike again, returning to the street where the incident had happened. The neighborhood looked peaceful, almost ordinary, but for Malik everything had changed. Every crack in the pavement, every bird that chirped, every neighbor's window became a reminder of what he had faced and overcome. He pedaled slowly, remembering how fear had